Now here's what that means. How intelligent can a machine be? Well, if you took there's a little gadget called a pressure transducer. If you squeeze it, it generates electricity. So let's put one in each tire. And let's say that you kick the front right tire. It goes to a recording, says, ouch, my front right tire. Now, of course, if you kick any tire, it'll verbalize. But if you kick it hard, it'll say, ouch, my front right tire. And if you kick it again, you say, who do you think you are? Do you want to give a machine feelings? Do you want to give a machine compassion, love, warmth? I'll tell you why they leave it out of machines, because it doesn't work. Human emotions that you learn are the most significant and most important differences between men and machines. Human emotions are a very touchy subject. It's like racing your engine at a stoplight, you know. It doesn't take you anywhere. It doesn't serve any purpose. If you get a lump in your throat when you see hungry people, that's emotional. But when you increase the agricultural yield per acre, that's caring. That's love. Love is transforming all of the verbal and paper proclamations to a way of life. The shameful thing about our century is that there was only one Edison, one Louis Pasteur, one Nikola Tesla, one Madame Curie. We should have had thousands of them, and we will, once we get rid of the artificial boundaries that separate people. Once we get rid of nationalism, patriotism, again, I do not mean to offend anybody. All that I ask you to do is think about this, toss it around. This is what the Venus Project advocates. The Venus Project is a design for a culture in which we bridge the difference between all nations. How is that done? By a universal language, the blueprint. If you open a blueprint in Japan, they know what you're talking about. If you write a prescription for England, Japan, France, the pharmacologist understands that. There's no discrepancies. There's no ambivalence. I wonder what he meant by that. It's clear. The language we use daily is not. The language of warmth and love are verbal excuses and verbal outlets for some people for avoiding their responsibility to make the world a better place for everyone. The smarter your kids are, the richer my life. Every kid on corner shooting up drugs, going nowhere, you're going to have to pay for in the future. Therefore, it is efficient and functionally selfish to build a better world for everyone. If you try to do it, people come to me all the time and they say, can you design a city with a wall high enough so when the U2K problem comes, or the system breaks down, or the banks fail, we will be protected? I said, sure, I can design that, but there are people that'll drive by with launching mechanisms right over your little wall. There's no place you can hide. We have 25 acres. People call it Eden 2. It's beautiful. But if the bottom falls out of this culture, there will be people at my front gate with children. How about some food just for the kids? The next day, 50 people. Everything looks solid to you. Everything looks solid and stable. And the future looks promising. But here's the truth. I have seen an XY plotter, that is a machine that moves in 3 dimensions. They put a scalpel in that machine and an X-ray of a brain tumor. And this machine removed the brain tumor on a cadaver in about 1/10 the time. And doctors think, oh, just the industrial work on the production line. He's on the way out, but not me. I can think. Well, let me say this again. The typewriters that work the speech, today you talk to your computer and you get a type, and also corrects your English, restructures your sentences, makes recommendations. How much longer do you think people are going to be in positions in industry and government making their own decisions? We don't believe that anyone ought to make decisions. We believe that people ought to arrive at decisions. Now, here's what that means. You go across the country and pick up samples of the soil from all over the nation. You bring it to Central Agriculture, analyze that soil, and then turn to your health department and ask them what people need. Manganese, whatever they need. And what is this soil good for? What should we grow? Tomatoes, and then rotate the crop, move to something else. That's what I mean by surveying the conditions. Not, what's your opinion? What's your opinion? Democracy is a crude and vulgar system and should have been phased out centuries ago. But we don't have enough outside points of view on radio and television. When I talked this way on the Larry King show, he said to me, just a minute, I depend on those people that you're attacking. I wasn't attacking the automobile companies. I just said that if you did that, it would be safer. If you put proximity units on automobiles, most of you have them in your home now. When you walk over the building, the light goes on. That's a proximity unit. Put that in your car, and if you're backing up and a child is crawling behind you, it stops, no matter how much you step on the gas. I don't want any sign slippery when wet. I want an abrasive put in the highway and take that sign down so it's not slippery when wet. I don't want to say to kids, stay away from drugs. I want to make life so interesting for people that they don't want drugs. They don't want to dull their senses. They want to become keen, and they want to become fully aware, I'm using older language, and conscious of their surroundings. It is painful to deaden your awareness when life is beautiful, when what you do goes out to people and makes their lives better. In one session at Princeton, I changed the values of many people. They walked out discussing this for years thereafter, and I still get letters today. I went into an area of New York called Hell's Kitchen. The kids there were considered very bad. And the social worker used to wear a necktie and eyeglasses. And anyone that wore eyeglasses when I was a kid was a sissy. And when you wear a necktie and a suit, and you're talking to these kids in rags in the slums, they look at you as an outsider. You're unacceptable to them. So I put a wire recorder out in the front office. And after the social worker talked to the young boy, by the way, they made guns out of water pipe. And how many of you knew that? They didn't go and buy guns. They made them. And the social worker picked the gun out and he said, you're going to take someone's eye out, wind up in a state penitentiary, hurt your mother and father. You want to do that? Well, the kid says nothing at all. Then when the kid walks out, I make a wire recording of the way he talks to his friend. Hey, he said, jerk, the guy up front, the social worker. Then I walk over to the social worker. How'd you make out with Johnny? I had a good talk with the boy. I believe we established rapport. How do you know that? He says, I felt it intuitively. Then I play the tape. By the way, it was a wire recorder. I play the tape of the kid's answers. And he said, I'm grateful so-and-so. I said, no, just say, I don't know how to get to Johnny. I know how to get to Billy. I tried 8 different methods. None of them worked. So I said, watch what I do next week. I walked in the office, picked up the gun. I said, I understand you made this gun. He said, I told the guy I made it last week. This is in New York City. I used to make recordings of this. I wanted to use it in a film later. And I picked up the gun, I'm looking at it, and I'm shaking my head. He said, what's the matter with it? I said, come here. The damn pin is 1/8 of an inch off center. He says, yeah. And I said, if you put a couple of washers on the side, you can move the pin right on center. He said, hey, do you work here? I said, what, with those jerks? Nah. Can I bring my friends over to meet you? That's people like him with similar values. Then you go to work in their terms, not your terms. Real psychology has to be related to the real world, not theory, not lab experiments in schools where you're not in touch with people, where you don't get the feel of people, where you don't get the sense of their identification with the world around them. I have changed many of those kids. And I brought a gun in for them to look at. I said, I made this gun. Wow, they said. I sure would like to be able to make a gun like that. I said, well, I can help you do it. You can? Well, what do I have to do? I have to learn how to draw a front view of a gun, a side view of a gun. I know I'm going fast and over a lot of drawings. You have to make 3 views to the gun so it can be made. He said, I'm going to learn to do that. So I set him up on a drafting table, and I took him from